Sarah, it is so great to have you here on Mom Life Unfiltered, and this is a special roundtable edition for us. We are so excited to have you.
Thanks so much, Marliga. I'm really happy to be here. Really happy to be here.
Amazing. I want to kind of go into wearing your worth. What is that? What do you do? How did you start that business?
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. So Wearing Your Worth is a business that looks at the psychological relationship that we have with our clothes as a way to inform our style. So in brief, we think we make really conscious choices about what we wear every day, but the vast majority of the choices of how we dress are governed by our unconscious programming and patterning and conditioning from society. So what I do with women is I come into finding those programs and that patterning and that conditioning. And then underneath that, what happens is we come into connection with their true essence, the truth of who they really are. And when you dress according to that, so you're congruent from who you are on the inside to who you are on the outside, your whole energy changes, and the way that you feel in your clothes and you feel in yourself is totally different. So you asked how I came to it. I spent 30 years in the fashion industry in Australia and working for companies in Australia and also some global companies as well. And I was a judge on Project Runway Australia. I did large startups, senior executive roles, and I've also been in personal development for 25 years. And about 10 years ago, my worlds just came together.
Wow. What a story.
That's very impressive. And so interesting. Ben told me a little bit about your work, and if you work with Ben, then it must be something meaningful and interesting. So I'm so excited to dive into this with you and just hear more.
Beautiful.
I can kick it off with a question. I have a question that might connect with, because you work with women, but I know you also work with moms, a lot of moms
Yes.
as well. Does society value mothers more for what they sacrifice or for what they achieve?
Whoa, that's such a great question.
We have to go right in.
That's
right away.
I'm a mum of two myself, right? And I think the hardest thing for us as women and mums is it's almost like we're expected to do both. So we're expected to sacrifice and we're expected to achieve. So I think we are walking this line of, I don't know about you, but I walk the line of exhaustion because, running on one side and achieving, and we're out there earning and making our mark in the world. And I mean, not everyone is out there doing it. But we're sacrificing as well, in the sense of the biggest sacrifice that I find with the mums that I work with is the sacrifice of their identity. Mm-hmm. So it's like, and it often happens in two or three pivotal points from my experience of working with mums, is it comes when kids are around 9, 11, somewhere around that. All of a sudden, the kids are starting to be more self-sufficient, and so their personalities are forming. We're also getting pushback as well, and we're starting to feel in ourselves, who am I? Like, where did I go? What happened? And so I get quite a lot of that. Then I also get in, like, when they're in their teens and later teens, and there's a whole nother identity that mums go through, in the sense of, I've totally lost myself. I don't know who I am anymore. And what I find they do is they start to go back to their teenage self. So all their teenage patterns start to come up. And then they start this whole comparison with if they've got daughters, with daughters, or if they've got sons. I know for me, it was all the sons' girlfriends. And so all of a sudden it's like, I find that mums often tend to go into these dressing patterns of the teenage girls. And so they lose their own authority and they step into the authority of their teenage children. And the other point, I'll give you one more point that I get. I mean, I then get once kids have left home. Oh my God, like it's a big one. Because all of a sudden, and often, and if transitory, I should say, times in mum's lives is where I get a lot of people that come forth and they're like, I'm just lost. I don't know who I am anymore. But I had a client last week who her kids are 2 and 5, and it was beautiful because she was just like, I'm just lost. I love my children. I love mothering. I love all of that. And I'm building my own business, but I feel like my business has got a bit of a glass ceiling on it and I don't know where I'm stuck. And here's the kicker that we need to remember. The patterns that we play with our wardrobe and our clothes. So if we're hiding, if we're playing small, if we're addicted to comfort, if we're looking to stand out, to purely stand out, the patterns we play in our wardrobe are the same as the patterns that we play out in life. So our wardrobe is like a metaphor for our life. So when we find them in there and then we find those patterns, we come under them, we find who we really are by the form of 3 style essences, kaboom. It's just like, yeah, we really like the identity.
So if I just, I'm a middle-aged woman. My kids are exactly in that age range. So if I just want to dress oversized every day, and I'd like to, stay in my PJs if I could. What does that, like, what kind of person does that, what kind of woman does that make me? I really, like, I don't want to, like, I love looking at other women wearing, also my age, wearing dresses and all that. And I like dresses, don't get me wrong. But I'm like, if it's not comfortable, I'm not going to wear it. That's in the stage I am. And wait, hold on. So it's just so interesting because last weekend, I had a conversation with another mom, and she has kids 8, 10, and 13. And we had exactly that conversation that you just mentioned. She's like, I've been doing this job for 15 years, 20 years. The kids are getting more independent every day. I've been through COVID with them. I've been through like everything with them. Her husband was gone all day working, or is gone, working all day. She's like, I don't know who I am anymore. Like, where am I? Who am I? I completely lost touch with myself. And I thought it was so interesting because I'm not quite at that point yet, even though we're kind of like the same age and our kids are kind of like the same age. But I feel like I have so much going on in my business that I don't really have time to think about that, really. But I just think it's so interesting that you bring this up, and this is the work that you're doing, because I just had this conversation with someone, and I hope she's going to listen to this episode.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
What I loved about what you just said too was the PJs and the oversized. And it's like, so I heard 2 things. Let me take a step back and then I want to come back to that. Can I do that?
Yeah.
So what I'm seeing is, once we find the programs and patterns, so I'll give you this background so then we can step into that piece. Once we find that, what I found, and honest to God, I did not set out to do this work. This work found me. Like, I tried to run from it so many times because it was like, oh, good Lord, give me something easier. I've come from high-paying senior exec roles and I'm just like, could I just go back to normal? It's like, no, because this work's super, super important, right? So once we come under this programming, what I found is that each of us have 3 what I've termed style essences. They're like 3 creative characteristics that make up your style, and they're completely unique to you. Now, when you put those three into an outfit, and I see it every single time with my clients, it's like, oh, boom. It's like you come home to yourself in your clothes in a way you never have before. You feel connected, you feel grounded, you have, like, you connect in, I call it, into our heart and soul. It's a different part. We come out of the mind and we come into here, and our whole body just goes. People say unprompted, I've never felt more alive in my skin than I do right now. And it's because they're congruent inside and outside. Those patterns are dropped, the programs, they've stepped out of the matrix of that conditioning, and they've come back and they've found these pieces. I'm going to come back to that. Let me just give you this, which I hardly ever give, but I really want to give this. Our first style essence is really easy to find, right? We will have defaulted to that. Our second essence is underneath and hidden under that programming. And what I've only just realized in the last 12 months, our third essence, we are normally in real resistance of. So it's like a part of us that we've judged, we've disowned, and we've shoved down. And that's why women face so much indecision, so much insecurity in what they wear, and they default to these patterns, but they don't feel amazing in their clothes. So, Corinna, if I can go back to what you said about your PJs, about oversized, you gave us something fabulous in that sentence, because you gave us that, right, in the comfort. And then at the same time, you tailed to the end of the sentence and you said, I'm just so busy in my business all the time. Yeah. And that you don't have time to kind of question, am I lost? Because you're so busy here. Can you hear the equal and opposite there? Why wouldn't we be faulting to that comfort, to that oversized, to that kind of like, exhale, when you're really busy? So it's almost like the business is taking that very masculine. It's like, and your feminine's like, could I just stop? Right?
Wow.
And that's when we get addicted to comfort, because there's two things with comfort. Either what's happening with a lot, let's go to yours first, actually. We're looking for that sense of exhale, relaxation in our life. So we try to bring it through in our wardrobe. And so I always say to people, if you're addicting to comfort, just check you're not looking for your wardrobe to feel that sense of that feminine downtime, off-duty time, right? And you're trying to suffice that in your clothes. And where else in your life do you need that? Where do you need to give yourself that time? That is one piece, and for mums are really important. And here's the other thing around comfort. If we're in a comfort, so if we're addicted to comfort in our wardrobe, and it's the number one discerning factor of what we wear, what's often happening is we've unwittingly placed ourselves in a pattern of a comfort zone. So often when people are addicted to comfort in the wardrobe, if you look at their business, they'll say, I'm at this glass ceiling, I can't get past this piece. And what happens is, because they're embodying, so every day when you get dressed, if you're getting dressed from your unconscious programming, you're actually embodying that program into your energy field. You're reinforcing it every day through the clothes that you wear. And when you tell yourself, I need to stay comfort, I'm not getting outside that comfort zone, you take that energy into your business, into your relationships, into your parenting, into all of it. Wow. And you stay in this comfort zone and you don't let that edge be pushed.
Wow. I mean, there's so many things I wanted to stop you so many times and speak to that. But I feel like also, and I'm sure that a lot of women can relate to that if I don't feel comfortable in my body, the more oversized clothes I wear. So I think there's a lot of that too. And unfortunately, most of us grew up with this in the society where you need to have a certain size, you need to have a certain look in order to, in order to not to be accepted, but to be attractive to whoever. So I think a lot of that probably comes from that too, for me personally, which I think is a whole new conversation to have, right? Like, how did we get there? Why is that I see myself differently in the mirror that my husband looks at me, or my husband sees me, or other people see me? Like, where does that come from? That's sad, right?
Yeah.
So when I put on comfortable clothes, I mean, I love fashion. I have a background in fashion. I like to be fashionable, but it has to be so comfortable. Like, I can't be, if I wear skinny jeans or a tight t-shirt, I can't be like going like this all day and feeling uncomfortable. I gotta, like, my body has got to breathe. That's how I feel.
Beautiful.
So,
Malia, do you want to jump in? And then I'd love to answer what I found through Women with That.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think in our society, it's just steeped in capitalism. So if there's any types, like, it's easy to condition humans, especially women. We're fully into beauty. And so to make us feel like we're never enough, and to continue to have ads out of what beauty standards are when all of our bodies are so unique. And so we're never taught in a capitalistic world to embrace and embody who we are, our uniqueness. We're always striving to be something else. And there's always this comparison. We have to compare ourselves to the next woman because that's a part of the conditioning. That's a part of capitalism. So a lot of women deal with body dysmorphia of, like, other people are seeing you in this beautiful way, but when you look in the mirror, you see your body as something that's not enough, or that you're not worthy. So yeah, that's what I was going to add.
That's beautiful. And yes, I agree with you. The beauty industry is so broken, and it's one of the chief ways that as women we lose our power. And that's actually what keeps me going in this business. I like to call it sovereign beauty. I want to bring women back to their sovereign beauty, the truth of who they really are. Because this is what I've noticed over the last decade. The dialogue that women talk, so every session, the body comes up because, they're in and out of their clothes, right? And it doesn't matter what size someone's body is, what shape their body is, the dialogue is almost the same. I've had people like in sub-zero sizes, and then sizes, 10, 14, 20, 28, the dialogue's almost the same.
Right.
This is steeped in our being.
Yeah.
And it's, as you said, Malia, the capitalist society, that the industry requires our insecurity for their success.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm kind of busting that business because this is what I know. This is what I know, right? It's like when you come into this is what I find with all of my clients. So it will start with body and how they feel, because the dialogue's there. And we always go into the dialogue of what we say to ourselves when we get dressed. Once you find so that, I'm going to use some language which might sound a bit woo-woo, but I'll bring it back, right? It's like from that state which is quite like it's a lower sense. It's from a sense of fear, because the voices we hear in our head that are self-critical like that, we're looking at ourselves. We think we're looking through our own lens, but we're not. We're seeing ourselves through the external lens of what we think others will say about us. If you really listen to that dialogue, it's come from a pattern of how we think we'll be judged by others, right? Deep in.
Right.
So that comes from a basis of fear. When we come back in to find our essence, so we find those programs, we find that fear, we find that patterning, which is all based on, Malia, the conditioning from society and the societies that we live in, then underneath that is our raw connection with ourself. And from where, when we reconnect with that and we reconnect with our essences, there isn't self-criticism that lives within that field of vibration.
How are we?
Yeah.
I need for you to break down how we can connect with our essences, because I mean, people look at me, I'm naturally thin, and they think that I don't judge myself or my body. I can relate to what you're saying. I have the same dialogues as someone who feels like their body is too much. My body is maybe not enough. So it's like, how do we, and so there's a constant tape playing or a script inside of the head that we play each time, whether we're getting dressed or when we get up in the morning. And it's not even really our narrative. It's like a narrative that we've inherited in some way, shape, or form. It could be like our family, it could be some authority figures, or it could be media in general. But how are we, especially moms, supposed to tap back into their essence, the main essences, so that you don't have that script playing?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. We always start with actually finding that dialogue. So the way that I work is, as I said, I find the programming and patterning first, and I work in like one-on-one consults. I work in online courses, and I'm about to bring out a do-it-yourself course so people can take themselves through this and find their own essences through a do-it-yourself. Yeah. Because I've also got a book with an agent at the moment that should be out next year that takes everyone through this process. I want everyone to get this, because as women, we need to change this paradigm, and it starts with us. We can talk about, we need the beauty industry to change, we need the fashion industry to change. We all know, we're in business and we've been in these industries. They will not change until the demand changes. We need to change that demand ourselves. So, for instance, for our listeners today, next time that you get dressed, stop and listen. What is the dialogue? Because most of it, it's white noise, and we don't even realize that dialogue is going on. We default to what we wear. So we default to, it might be, a cover up, or it could be, for some people, so some of the major patterns that we have is either people hide under their clothes. Now that can be in oversized clothes. So we want to listen to that background. What do we think we're hiding? Right? Where is that? And what does that dialogue say? It could be, people will play down. I've had people who say, they'll go to gatherings or parties and they'll dress down because they're afraid if they dress up too much and look too fabulous that these other women won't speak to them, because then that competition.
Wow.
Right? There was one woman who was absolutely adamant in this, and when we tracked back where that came from, it came from her teenage that she was going out one night and she really dressed up, and her mum really berated her for dressing up. And, you know, you think you're so great, and like it was a really harsh encounter. And she held that. And so, you know, took from mum, took to women that if I look too good, I'll be shunned. I'll be put down. And then
Wow.
yeah.
And I mean, just admitting, sorry, I have to stop you there. Just that's so beautiful, right? It's beautiful in a way that why is a woman ashamed to say, I can't put on this fabulous dress because I will look too good. Just saying that is already like, who are you to say, like, you know, do you think you're so beautiful? Do you think you're so great? Do you know what I mean? I don't know if the words come out right, but it's like that already, that you have to be ashamed to even admit that that's how you feel because other people might think you're cocky or whatever. You know what I mean?
100%. 100%. And it happens, you'd be so surprised how often it happens in things like, so there's 6 style essence groups. And I didn't know there was going to be groups. It was just like, I just started to chart everything and sent it off to someone who could put it into some kind of order. And I said, just see if we can put it into an order and I can see if there are any patterns in here. Because I had this inclination inside. And I found that out of all of these, like there's hundreds of essences, and they'll keep extending the lists because they're so unique to you. Like our words hold a vibration for us. And so, but when I put them down into these groups, I found there were 6 groups. So I'll give you the 6 groups, which I also don't often do, but I really want to do that tonight. So there's an elegant style essence group. There's a sexy style essence group, a playful style essence group, unique style essence group, edgy style essence group, and feminine style essence group. You each will be in 3 groups, and the other 3 will just be meh. Now, they won't necessarily be the names, but they will have some of those characteristics in them. Now, one of the hardest things about when people say, well, how do we do this? If we were to just go straight into, let's just decide what groups we're in, what's going to happen is your programming and patterning is going to choose those groups, right? So you're going to embed yourself in your unconscious programming even further. And that's why we have to get to this layer of fear and to this layer of conditioning first, because underneath that, the essences become really obvious. But if we choose from that, then we just embed those dysfunctional patterns even more. And that I am so passionate about not doing. Why is it that a woman would feel like I can't look that good? That's why I went to the group. So often in the elegant style essence group, which can be filled with a lot, it could be sophisticated, refined, it could be classy, whatever it is, right? But there's some kind of sense of elevation in their style. There's a lot of people that hit that and they've totally disowned that part of them. And what I found, I started to find a thread over here in Australia in particular around that. And we do have a tall poppy syndrome thing that happens over here. And that of women that have been to private school, but say their families didn't have as much money as the rest of the people there. And so they felt they had coupled elegance and pretentiousness. And so in their mind, they went into absolute resistance of that kind of more elevated feel that was so much a part of their essence. Mm-hmm. And so to begin with, like I've had women throw absolute like teenage temper tantrums in the sessions where we're finding those essences, and one of those comes up, that or sexy is another. These essences are not how they look to others. They're how they feel in ourselves. And the word sexy is such a triggering word for women because we're so objectified in our bodies. And the word sexy almost belongs to the male gaze. in our language. And so I always say to people, I like to think about sexy as our second chakra. Like it is, if you think what sits in our second chakra, it's our reproductive sense. We originally had sex to procreate. Sexy is like that true, powerful creatrix inside us. It's not about how we look sexy for someone else. It's about how we connect in with that powerful feminine that is this burning creator inside her. And so there are characteristics to each of the groups. Malia, did I just see you?
Yeah, I mean, because I think this is something that, and both of you can speak on this. I think, and I've heard this from friends as well, that when you are a mother, your sexiness dies. You're not in tune with your eroticism or anything like that. Like you don't even erotic, what? And eroticism is all around us. I mean, a lot of women don't even realize that it goes far beyond just sexiness. But if you can speak on, when you work with specifically moms, or if you, either one of you can chime in on this. When you become a mom, does your sexiness die? And then if it doesn't, does that mom have to work really hard to keep it alive, to maintain it?
That's such a great question. And if I can jump in, I find exactly as you said is a pattern I find in mums so much of the time. So much of the time. And I think what happens is if you think of our feminine holds lots of different archetypes within that. So our sexy and erotic, as you just mentioned, is one archetype, right? What happens is when we go into mothering, often what happens is we play the feminine out in nurturer.
Mm-hmm.
So we put so much of our feminine into nurturing others. And then she becomes, our feminine has so many different facets that wants to really wants to express. And I think what happens also is we look at sexy and we almost feel an inappropriateness of her because it's so externalized in this society. And it's made wrong because it's made, like I said before, more for the male gaze. So it's one of those, I mean, I don't know, actually I won't go there. I was going to go into religion, but maybe I won't. It's a whole nother conversation. But there's that sense of, do you want me to go there?
Sure.
You can go wherever you want to go. Sure.
Well, if you think about even what happened, like for eons, anything to do with female power has been really put down and been made bad. So, it's interesting when we look even at the Magdalene and is it the Gospel of Magdalene? I can't remember. But that was resurfaced after that was hidden, and that she was always made out to be this whore. She's this incredibly powerful woman that was involved in sacred sexuality. And so we look at sex as something, and that word as something that needs to be hidden and something that's a thing. And so when we become a mother, it's almost like we feel we've got to tuck away parts of us so that we're not inappropriate in there. But that's part of our creator. And one thing I didn't mention with the style essences is that they don't just pertain to our style. These essences are part of us, and we find them. We find them in our work. We find them in our relationships. If they're missing, the ones that are pertinent to us, our true style essences, if they're missing in our expression in our relationship, in our expression in our work, in our expression in our parenting, we're going to feel really something's not right. We feel drained, we feel de-inspired, we feel like resistant. I've had parents say to me, when I'm in my style essences, I'm a more patient and present parent because I just feel so much more alive. And so, I think Sorry, I've gone off track again. So, Corinna, I'd love to hear, as a mother, for me, I definitely went through that up and down as sexy in early years with my boy. And it took me a long time to bring that back. And I definitely found that. Corinna, I'm super interested to hear from you.
Well, I have so many thoughts on this because I think it's such a crazy journey to become a mom. And also it depends on at what time of your life you become a mom, right? I became a mom. I just turned 29. I was one of the first, woman in my friend group who became a mom. So first of all, I had no idea what I was getting into, right? I didn't have any idea. What does it mean to have a child? Then nobody talks about how your body will change. Nobody talks about how your relationship will change. Nobody talks about like how your entire life will change within overnight, pretty much. So when I became a mom, first of all, we moved countries too. So there was a lot of change going on all at once. It was tough. It was really, really hard on all of us. I just wanted to be, as you said, I just wanted to be the nurturer. I was like, I have this baby on me 24/7, literally. And then my husband, he doesn't go through that same, what do you say, I don't know how you pronounce it in English, metaphors.
Metamorphosis.
Thank you. Maybe I should just throw out German words if I don't know anything, but luckily you know what I mean. So the father doesn't go through that, right? He doesn't have the hormones. He doesn't go through that. He just gets this new woman. Like, here is your new wife, who's like a completely different person after giving birth. That's how it was for me. Again, it's not like that for everyone, but it was like completely new to me. Then with Instagram and social media, when I see moms that have like their third child or their fourth child and their bodies look like they're 20, I'm like, how? That's my first question. Like, how? And subconsciously, I'm probably jealous.
Which is fine.
Right. But here we are with those, where we were in the beginning. It's the society that, why is it wrong to give your body the time that it needs to change, and your body will change and your body won't be the same as it was before. And so will probably your fashion. My fashion changed. I'm not saying it's gotten worse. It's just gotten different. So that's my thought on this whole, like, I think when you look at social media, and that's what mostly distracts me in my healing journey. And I think that it doesn't matter if you're a new mom or if you've been a mom for 10 years or whatever. I think it's a constant change and a constant journey. And I think it should be talked about more. This whole.
Karina, do you think what I said is true? Do you feel like as a mom, your sexy leaves is gone? I've heard a lot of moms talk about this, but not every mom is the same.
I wouldn't say gone. I think it takes a lot more effort to find that. We talked about it in our last podcast. When do you feel most sexy? And I actually thought about that question because I couldn't give an answer. And
That's
then
now.
Right. And then the next day I was cleaning my apartment with headphones and loud music in my ear. And I was just cleaning and dancing and singing. And I was like, I think this is when I feel most sexy. It's just, but it's, I guess, which is so ridiculous, right? But, and I wish I could feel that more often. And I don't know where that got lost along the way. And it's probably a session I should have with my therapist. But this feels like a therapy session too, a little bit. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. I so get that piece around what we just talked about, in the sense of where does that sexy part of us go, and especially if it's one of our essences. It's like we'll feel it. And for me, I mean, I'm 60 now, so this whole how that part also in society, it's, you know, our bodies do change. I was one of those when I had kids, that I walked out of the hospital in size 8 jeans. I was one of those that my body just always just came back and just looked the same, right? But I didn't feel the same.
Mm-hmm.
It was, even though you could look at you look the same, I didn't feel the same, because a lot of my energy, as we talked about, went into this nurturing. But then I it was very confusing, actually, because very early on, and I think the first couple of years, I mean, it's really demanding being a mum of like really young kids, and I breastfed. If I'm breastfeeding, like my body becomes a milk bar as well. Like, you know, it becomes this different function. And so, and I think that's where, and I think that comes into the selflessness. It's like all of a sudden we are the life force for another human being. And so it's different to men that don't breastfeed, right? They might be, that their bodies, as you said, haven't gone through what our bodies have gone through. We cannot be the same after that, because there's so many different changes. And I wonder whether that's where we find ourselves feeling lost, because those parts along the way have started to fragment. My experience of when we find those fragments and start identifying those and putting them back, it's almost like the jigsaw puzzle comes back in, and we go, I remember me now. And it might not even be because, I don't know about you, but I wasn't overly conscious in my teen years. That was freaking wild. And it's like, so I didn't know who I was then.
Right.
I thought I knew fragments of myself, but it wasn't until my essences all came together and I could really feel within that it was like, oh, okay, this feels like me. And I take my hat off to women with young kids that come to work with me, because I would have loved to have done that. I would have loved to have come back to me when my kids were younger and really known. I mean, I've been a daily meditator for 30 years. I did lots of other things, but this piece was like to really know myself, because then I can be even more present with my kids and really hold that.
And also show to if you have a daughter, be a good role model and show how it's getting done. You know, that's also something that really worries me. Like, I don't know how to do this. How am I supposed to teach my daughter that?
100%. And it's interesting because I work with a lot of women who talk about that, and they talk about their daughters, and that they want to be able to really hold that, so that because it's really, I mean, I look at the world now and I think everyone is very brave bringing children into the world right now, in the sense that there's so many external factors that I didn't have. My kids are 34 and 31. I had kids at 26. I didn't have that. And So it's that sense of, I've worked with teenagers actually, mind blowing, like really mind blowing. I haven't worked with a lot. I worked with only a couple. One was amazing in the sense of, and she still uses 3 years later. I spoke to her mum the other day and she said she still uses her essence and she'll go, hang on a minute, I'm a little low on this essence. Let me just top that up in her outfit. And so she's got something that allows the internal to inform her rather, because we need to help them not be so externally influenced with so many voices. I mean, I get exhausted by social. I don't know how they do it. It's, to really be able to hold our own amongst that.
What do you recommend? I don't know why I'm asking this question, but it just popped up in my head. So my daughter, for instance, she loves dressing up, right? Like she goes into my closet and takes out the 2 sexy dresses I have and puts them on, and she creates something totally different with them. She make a headband out of it or a top, or it's like so wild to me how she does that. But, and I know that there are a lot of parents or moms out there who want their kids to dress a certain way. When my daughter was 2, she kind of like started to create her own looks, and it never really aligned with I was envisioning for her. But I realized that she has this determination towards how she wants to dress. So I kind of like let her run wild. What would you recommend to moms who have that? I also know friends of mine, they dress their kids. Their kids are 8, 10. They tell their daughters, this is what you're going to wear today. And the daughters are like, okay, thank you. And I always envied that because I was like, I wish my daughter would let me dress her. But now I'm kind of like happy that I didn't. And because sometimes she would come to me and say like, Mom, how do you like this? Mom, how do you like that? Oh, Mom, I think you should, put out an outfit for me today. I was like, oh, we're getting there kind of, but how do you see that?
Yeah. So it's really interesting. This is a thing I know. So far, and yes, I've been working with the essences for 10 years, our essences don't change because they're the essence of who we are on the inside, right? So what I'm hearing is your daughter is attuned, right? She's still got that attunement to herself that gets so wiped away once we start to take on all of the societal stuff. So, and you're talking about she's pulling out these sexy dresses, she's creating. So there's definitely that creatrix of some sort. I'd be really surprised if that wasn't one of her essences. It's really possible that she's in that unique essence group too, right? That there's something that she loves to make it her own, and it just feels and she comes alive when she does that. So what I would do when she's making those outfits out of your clothes, and when she pulls an outfit and puts it together, actually I said this to another mum today, instead of talking about how it looks or instead of even considering that, I would say to her, how do you feel in that outfit? And she'll start with something, and then I would just keep layering. Oh, and what does that feel like? And how does that make you feel? Yeah, because we're wanting to feel, we're wanting to keep her, and you're such a gift to your daughter to do this, because you're going to embed a pattern that she gets to feel into her clothes before she takes the external view of it. And in all of my sessions, I'm always bringing back, sometimes it can take up to 2 or 3 hours before a woman can really connect with how she feels in her clothes, rather than she She's telling me about the practicality or telling me what she thinks that it'll look like or blah, blah, blah. So the gift that you and all our mums out there can do is to keep bringing our daughters and our sons, because I had a son like that. When you
Wow.
put together, that I would just look and go, my eldest, I used to, kind of pick out things, and there were these gorgeous, outfits and things. And with that, though, I was overlaying my own essences, because that's what we do, right? Because we naturally kind of go to that, and our own conditioning. Whereas my youngest son used to pull the most extraordinary outfits.
Wow.
Okay. And sometimes it was like, yeah, and then other times it was like, okay, yeah. And you know what? I've done his essences. And one of his essences is uniquely mundane. So there's a uniquely mundane, there's relaxed, and there's elegant. And those, when I look back, he was holding this uniquely mundane, very, like, it was so present early on. And so it's fascinating to just keep bringing your kids back into how do you feel in that outfit. Because then they'll start to see, even when someone else says to them, and they come into teenage years, and you should wear this, and they put it on, and someone says, oh, you look beautiful. Hopefully, if we can say it enough, they'll come back to, how do I feel in this? And if it doesn't feel right, they'll then make another choice to come into what really feels right for me. And
I
that's
love that approach. I think this is probably where it all starts, right? Because you, by saying or by asking, what do you think you look, or how do you think you look like, is like already so, it's such a superficial question. But if you ask, how do you feel? I love that.
I had a woman today that I was talking to, and she was talking to me about her 23-year-old daughter who was buying these clothes and she thought they were inappropriate, and she and her daughter would say, do you like this? And she said, so I was honest, and I said, I don't like it, and I don't think you look good in it, and, da, 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 da. And I said to her, can I give you something? And she kind of gave to me, yeah. And I said, how about next time she says, do you like this? Maybe you say to her, how do you feel in that? And she looked, she said, okay, I'm going to try it. And she's 23. Imagine if we could get our kids to really come into viewing beauty as something they feel rather than something they look. Because I keep going back to the essences, but when a client knows her essences, when she gets dressed, it's not about, do I look sexy? Do I look playful? Do I look this? It's the questions are always, do I feel this? Does it ignite this in me? And that's the only way that we're going to take our power back in this whole disrupted beauty paradigm that we're living in, is to come back and realize beauty is a felt sense first and the visual is secondary. So we want to come back to, how do I feel beautiful? And
I love that.
Love it.
I love
Absolutely love it.
This has been a phenomenal and eye-opening conversation. I have one last question for you. Any moms that are listening, especially mompreneurs that are really busy, if you had any advice for them to just tap back into their body and their identity and embodying an essence, just tapping into themselves, what would it be?
it would be to stay awake of the stories they tell themselves about their body, because we want to find those programs. We want to question what has become a hidden truth within us. We want to find those hidden truths that are absolutely not truthful at all.
I like that.
Let's come to that first. And I've got a YouTube channel I just started so that I can help people to find what programs they might be running and how they can kind of come in, because all of it is questioning. It's questioning this done deal that we think beauty is.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's coming back to knowing that you are inherently beautiful.
Yes.
You just are. And the most beautiful woman in any room is the one that just really feels her own sense of herself.
So true. Thank you for that.
Wow. We'll link all of your channels and websites and everything in this show so our listeners can check it out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for being a guest on Mom Life Unfiltered. We appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome. I've so enjoyed the conversation. I want to have more.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.